Welcome to the Smash Masters podcast, hosted by Stefan Eschi and Nick Priest. This is where we dig into the auto body collision repair field and talk quality repair methods and how the industry is always changing. Buckle up, it gonna get bumpy.
What's up?
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Last few shows I've been trying to let you talk first, but every time there's this long awkward pause, and then we both talk at the same time. But
I think the show might be just a tad bit delayed, like when it comes in from mine to yours, because when you say go live, my seconds are different. So I don't know. Either way,
it could be. Who knows?
Either way,
the wonders of technology.
What's up, Josh?
Hey, Josh.
How's it going? Yeah, so we've seen Gene's new podcast come out. If you guys hadn't checked out Gene's AAI podcast, he had some pretty interesting topics on this last one. Did you check any of it out?
I did. And what stuck out most to me were what did he call them?
Horse clamps.
Horse clamps.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because there's a sawhorse style.
Yes.
Basically, so
yep.
It's just these little clamps that go down. You know, ever seen those body shop part stands that just they're open like a scissor, and they're clamps that go on the bottom legs, and they come with the ratcheting straps. So you put your hood on the stand, and you just hook up the four to the holes or whatever. You secure them. Nice, easy way to secure them on that stand for body shop. So
I've had that problem too, trying to keep a hood on there nice and straight, and it ends up flying one way or the other. Good thing about those is you can clamp that anywhere on the leg of those stands, and you don't have to worry about it no more. So
so I mean, if you want that inward pressure or whatever, you can do that. He'll be he told me he'll be at Northeast Trade Show this coming weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Anybody that's in the Northeast area, this is right outside of New York City. It's in New Jersey, the Meadowlands Exposition Center in New Jersey. I can't remember. Is it Secaucus? I'm not sure. I'm not going to mess up any hotel names here. So it's at the Meadowlands in New Jersey. I'll leave it at that.
Are you going?
I am. I'm going Saturday and Sunday. You catch me in the Cam Auto booth.
Okay, so you're going to be there hanging out a little bit.
Doing some glue pulling demos and such. Should be fun.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Last year.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun last year. So looking forward to that.
That's a little far for me, or I would go up there. I don't have time to hit that one. So
you're good. You have a good excuse.
It's all good. But I think we have a good show this afternoon. I think a lot of relatable topics going on, and we get questions all the time. How do you start PDR? How do you start body work? How do you start this, that, or the other, and retaining to collision repair? So whatever field you're in, whatever you push dents or fix cars or do body work in a shop, I think he's got a lot of knowledge to bring to us. So let's go ahead and bring him in.
All right.
What's going on?
What's up, fellas?
All right. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Good. I've been watching your journey for the last, year or so. It's been less than a year since you left the body shop world.
May of last
year. No, it's been it's inspiring to see somebody take charge of their future like that and go off and do something that I know the three of us enjoy. Paintless dent repair.
Yeah.
So.
It's been crazy. It's there's hurdles to overcome for sure, but you don't really know what they are until you get there. And
you got
are a little bit
just
different.
Like both industries. You don't know.
Well, let's back up a bit,
sure.
And talk about how you got started in body work.
I was not told that, my parents were like, they don't want me to go into body business. My dad was a body man. Nobody
didn't want you to go
They didn't
into
want
it.
me to do any of this. Whose parent does, right? Especially somebody that's been in it. My dad was in it for a long time. It was, they
My mom
send you
just
to
wanted me to
private
get out of the house. She said, "Get a
out
job."
of the house. Yeah, right. So, and I had plenty of jobs, and a lot of steel mill stuff and machinery plants, and I happened to become a parent early on, and the next thing you know, you got to have you got to start a career. You got to think about all that stuff.
Yeah.
And, so it's, a body shop was hiring. My mom had sent me a link, or sent me back then it was still paper ads and stuff, and said, "Hey, this shop's hiring. You should go. They need a helper." And so I applied. You do it. People that kids don't do today, right? Everything's email and stuff. We actually dressed up, went there. Like, hey, I'm so and so, and applying for this, and I tried to put on like a a good impression.
Yeah.
So and body shop, body shop. They don't care. Come on, we'll hire you. Start, go take drug screen, whatever. Start Monday, and so I got the job right away. And I was a painter's helper and just cleaned up the shop. And then they had a body man that just never showed up, right after Christmas, right before Christmas, '94, something like that. And he said, the owner came back and was like, "Hey, I need you to come up here and you're going to work with me. You're going to be a body man." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Yeah.
It's been decided.
If you say so, right?
Yeah.
And and this was not the guy that I learned body work from. So I worked for him for 3 months, I think, and about that, and learned a little bit. And there was a guy that another body man that worked for him, and he had a helper, and he quit. He was promised, like he was going to be like part owner of the shop, and the guy just kind of like screwed him out of whatever. And so he left and went to another independent shop, came back to get his one check, and he was like, "Hey, when are you going to come work for me?" And I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I use another helper." And I said, "Okay." And then, like, that Friday, it was like, like, "Hey, I just took my little Craftsman box and threw it up under my arm. I had a couple grinders in it and some sockets and stuff." And I was like, "I'm out of here." And the guy was like, "All right, good, because you're never going to make it." And I said, "Okay." And I grabbed my check and I left. And then and I just became helper for this other guy. And he was really good. He was a frame guy, and he worked for a couple other independent shops and he did nothing but full frames on trucks. And back when we really straightened full frames, and when you could. And so I learned everything from him, and panel replay. Like I was only a helper for like 8 months.
Oh, really?
But I caught on really quick. I'm good with my hands. I pick things up easily. So I mean, it just came naturally to me. I never learned any of it from my father because they didn't want me doing it. And but I was just, I could think out of the box and kind of. I knew how I could. I knew what left was left and right was right. And I could do all that and figure out. How to do things.
Mechanically inclined.
So you took this Craftsman box. You wasn't?
I was not mechanically inclined. I had, my buddies would make fun of me. We were, you're hanging out in your buddy's father's garage. You're working on 69 Chevy pickups, and they're like, "Hey, where's the distributor?" And like, "Oh, that's it." And they're laughing. Like, "That's not the distributor, dude. That's a water pumper." Whatever it was. They would because I was never in that.
Well, neither was I. What I really meant by that is that you pick it up. Your brain works in a certain way where you figure out how things work, and you hold on to that kind of
problem.
It goes hand in hand, though, because I had to figure it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to realize, what things are really quick. So, but I picked it up fast, and so I was a helper for 8 months, and then, the only thing I didn't really learn quick was straightening. That was like the last thing.
Yeah, that's usually the last thing to everybody gets to. What did you have in this Craftsman box? Like you said, you put it under your arm. Like,
so I still have it's the old style red Craftsman, just flip up with the 3 drawers on it. I still have it. It's got screwdrivers and some sockets and stuff that I don't really use. But the bottom cabinet wasn't even mine. I think I took it from my dad, and it was the top box was too big for it. Like, so it was just, and it was just like a regular cabinet with one shelf and like pegboard stuff, so you could hang stuff in it. Yeah. But I just took that out and would just throw all the air tools in it. So it wasn't much. Air ratchet, 1/4 inch, 3/8, and an impact, and they were all old. Like it was all his old tools. Some Ingersoll Rand stuff that was all wore out, and and that's what was in it. It was literally just fit right under my arm. And I had the other toolbox in this hand. That's how I just carried it right outside with my check.
I've still got mine. I've still got my little red toolbox.
I wished I had mine. I had mine full of tools, and it was tiered like a 3-tier, like a snowman. Yeah. So I pushed it around, and one time I tilted the whole box over, and stuff just went everywhere. So when I did that, the tool truck come by, and I get on there, and I'm like, I'm buying a stupid toolbox after then. And it kind of, when I did that, it kind of ruined the thing. But I still wished I had it, even if I didn't use it, just to kind of have it. But some good memories toting them boxes around.
Well, I graduated from that one because my dad is retired. He was a manager, and so he had an old Vulcan toolbox. So once I left the first shop and went to this other shop, and when they finally, that was hard. I think we were getting like $7.50 a flat rate hour. It was, I think, and so I went from like $8.50 an hour as a helper. Like, hey, you want to go on your own? Like, yeah, I'm gonna go on my own. Like, I know what Joe made. I know what kind of money he was making. I'm like, I'm gonna make that kind of money. And they were like, all right. I think our labor rate was $26 an hour, the body rate. They're like, all right, you're getting $7.50 an hour. I was like, huh? What? Like, I can do math in my head, simple math, really quick.
Right.
It's gonna be a lot of hours, right? Like, it turn a lot of hours to do that.
Yeah.
And but I made it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
It was tough. I worked a lot of hours.
3 hours are going to get you $21 a little over.
I know, it's crazy to think that. I was like, it's like I do have some I think I still have some like old pay stubs from back then. It's crazy. I mean, I was raised in a family. I already had a daughter by then.
Yeah.
So I got married and had a daughter, and so it was like, if it wasn't for we had moved into my wife's grandmother's house, and then it was rent free, so we just had to pay, save the money and pay taxes at the end of the year for her
that
parents.
Does help.
Yeah. So they owned the house, so it was like, hey, you guys can live there, and you had to pay the taxes. So, and even saving that kind of money for the end of the year, which wasn't much. Now that I look back on it, wasn't really a whole lot. It was still hard, because you make $7.50 a flat rate hour.
I mean, you're pulled in so many directions at all times. I mean, you got to account for, like, if you're making really good money, the shop's killing it, and then you look into, like, I don't know if your shop was slow in the summertime or if it was the wintertime, but here,
it is. Yeah.
Here, summer times usually got slower, and the winter times became more.
Everybody's going on vacation, right? It's always it's the same thing, right? Everybody's on vacations, or it's tax time, or it's the holidays. Right? There's always those circumstances that cause it to get slow. People aren't, it's an election year, like,
right.
I've been through it all, and it was, and it was tough. I mean, it was, I had to borrow money constantly. You know what I mean? It was like, all right, you borrow money, and then, then tax time, all right, you get this much back, and pay everybody back right away. So
I just remember back in the day, we'd watch the weather. We get a good storm, and we'd be like, we got a storm, we're gonna get some work, and then a week later, all of a sudden they start coming in, and it's like, that's how it was. Until the cell phone, became a big thing, and everybody's distracted driving. Now we're busy year round, That totally changed everything.
The dynamic, and you get a lot of work from that because people aren't paying it, and it's bad down here in Florida, man. It's just accidents all the time.
It's everywhere.
And it's right.
They're keeping us busy. They're keeping us busy. That's for sure. As long as nobody gets hurt. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, ours was deer hits. In Maryland, it was like the rut starts, and next thing you know, there's 30 deer hits.
Remember deer season? Remember that?
Yeah.
We used to wait for deer season.
Yeah,
Man,
dude.
Yeah.
Deer season was that was it right there, dude. You knew it was coming, and you're like, yeah,
big smashes, too.
Especially if it was
end of
raining.
September,
Yep.
October, November.
October,
yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then the shop would be full of deer hits.
Yeah.
So I've been there, and it was fun. It was fun then because it was like, all right, that's how we're going to make a lot of money, because you knew back then a front end hit could pay 30 to 40 hours, and and you were doing it in 2 days. Because there wasn't any issues getting parts, and there wasn't all this, wasn't all that stupid stuff like within the past 5-10 years. You know what I mean? But back then it was it was strike. GM would go on strike, or that's what caused parts issues. But we never really had parts issues back then, and we didn't have insurance companies cutting their times. And it was we were getting.
Adjusters were ex-body techs.
They were ex-body men. And even the body shop managers, were body men or painters.
Right.
And,
everybody understood the assignment.
Yeah.
As they like to say today.
Right. And I got into it like the tail end of handwritten estimates.
Mm-hmm.
And they were, and shops, if you were good, some shops were paying you 50%. And you were getting that across the board. But it took me I was a slow body man. So it took me a year before I started. Yeah, I'm just kind of like, I don't know, I'm very anal about my detail work and everything. So I wanted to, I was so petrified of having to come back, because when you're in the body shop, the guys are relentless, man. They are not going to let you let that down, right? And you'll be the joke for weeks, So it's like, make sure everything's right. Don't fuck anything up. Make sure you put it together, And it got to the point where I got good at everything, and I would forget to put a headlight, plug it in, right? And that would be my comeback, So it was like
door handles.
You're right. Forget to put the 10 millimeter on the door handle.
Stupid freaking door handles.
The Jesus clip would break on you when you put it back together, and the rod would fall off of it. So
Do you remember when those Chrysler vehicles, when you turn left or right, the fog light would cut off on one side or the other?
Yeah.
So they would pull. Yeah, these kept coming back all the time, and they would be like, "You left this unplugged." They would drive it around, and because they drove it in, the left side would be off, like you forgot to plug it in. And
I do remember. I worked at a Chrysler dealer.
Well, they were turning lights, so they would turn on when you start turning the steering wheel.
Right, the customer would always bring back the plane. It's out. Yeah.
How about
that?
Euro fog lights? When they hit that switch by accident for the Euro fog light in the back, where it turns on one light bright in the back, and then they go and they're like, "I have a light out on the passenger side." So, no, you don't.
Yeah.
Right.
You turned on your fog light. And then they're like, what? And then you have to explain to them all about European fog lights and everything. It's like, you bought a car from Germany. I'm sorry.
Right. And be the aggravated body man, because they bring it back to you, and you're like, you forgot to do something there. And some of that stuff you tear back apart to get to any of it. And
that's how you figure it out. Yeah. And then you wasted time.
Body man on a Friday trying to put other cars together, and they bring you back a comeback for something that's supposed to do that.
That's wild. I feel like Chrysler did that on purpose, just to mess with body guys all across the world.
It's like, you would think that would be like, hey, when you're selling the person the car, like, hey, look, this happens when, you do that.
Right.
But we didn't get, TSBs, and it's like, hey, if you're doing this on this car, this is what happens to the fall. The mechanics got all that stuff. You know what I mean? Because I would just go, I don't know. I didn't mess with anything. So I did body, frame, and mechanical. I did all that.
Yeah.
Anything electrical, send it to the service department. They're like, well, I said, look, I checked it. Everything's plugged in. I unplugged it, replugged it in. The fuses are good. That's the extent of me, with electrical stuff. So I don't want nothing else to do with it, send it to the service department, and that's what
pre and post scanning cars, anything like that.
We didn't have any of that, right? None of that.
I mean, so I actually agree.
I started doing PDR. They were like, "Oh, you should probably have this. If you're going to go tear the tail light off this car to fix the quarter panel, and it's going to throw a code." So I bought a Autel, the Bluetooth 906 from Anson, and I still have it. I haven't done the updates in it, so I can only do up to 19. But for the most part, I use it just on my own vehicles.
Yeah,
just to have. I bought it, so but
it's important. You got to carry it around with you now.
Yep. You got to have it, and then when I sell a job, I'm like, look, I said, I turn everything on. I'm like, all right, you don't have any lights on the dash or whatever. So it's a possibility. This is going to throw a code when I take this apart. Mm-hmm. And I said, you may have to go to the service department because it's a newer vehicle and I can't calibrate it or reset it. I think it's got to be done there. So, I mean, if you want me to fix the dent, then
yeah,
this is a possibility. It's probably going to cost you whatever the mechanical rate is for Ford or when you take it to the dealership to do it, because I can't do it.
Yeah.
But
Andrew's got a good question.
Yeah, good question. Andrew says, "How is it dealing with insurance as a PDR tech compared to collision?"
It's about the same. It is.
That's what I want to say.
So it's about the same, and just doing the stuff around town and knowing all the adjusters, you know what I mean? The certain adjusters, you get that. There's that there's like a fine line that you both come in agreement that you can come to with certain things, and I haven't really had a problem. I did one car. I wrote a really high estimate on it, and I had DenOps redo it, and it was they found another 2,200 on it or whatever, and I got into it with the Geico adjuster because I submitted that to him. I was like, here, this is what I was like, you're way off, and it got to the point where the customer it was a brand new Honda Accord, and she had it. She bought it like New Year's Day or whatever, and one of the kids fell against the quarter panel, and it was nasty. And so I argued, back and forth, but she just wasn't having it. And the funny thing is, I'd seen her in the body because I was still working in the body shop. She had come into the body shop that I was working in, so I knew who she was. She just never had to deal with me. And she was like, no, that's not the way it works in the body shop. And I was like, oh, it's not? I said, oh, okay. I said, I'll get with the customer. And I just told the customer, I said, look, I'm not dealing with this lady. I said, she's being really rude with me. And she was rude to the customer because I guess they went with, instead of going to a body shop, they were going to have me do it. I said, I'll fix the quarter panel for my original estimate, what I gave you. And so she made a phone call. It was like, hey, this is what, he agreed to do it for this price. So that's what they paid. They wound up paying my original estimate. I could have just resubmitted it and let them, ask for a supervisor. Yeah. But the girl wanted her car done, and I was, I went from when I transitioned to the second body shop down here in Florida. It was like they kind of headhunted me, and I was like, well, look, I just wanted to come in, and I want 4 days a week, and I want Fridays off or Mondays off, whichever one you want me to take off. And then, and I'm going to do my PDR work on that. So I was working in the body shop, working in the evening, doing PDR, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I was doing PDR if I had it. So that's what I would do. I would just schedule it. So I just wanted to get it done. And,
that's what I'm doing. I mean, it was still good pain.
Yeah, dude, just get out. Just make the jump. And everybody told me that for years, and I was just like, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's a scary feeling, right? You've been fixing cars for 30 years, and you're used to somebody, coming out with the stack of work and saying, here, here's your work for, because they schedule Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You know what I mean? And then because for rental car stuff, and then you just go about your day, do your tear downs, write your supplements, put it in line, and then people were like, "You gotta just get out." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I realized it when I moved to Florida. I was done. Like I didn't want nothing to do. Like, and I love fixing cars. You know what I mean? I'm good at it. I just couldn't deal with the insurance companies anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It was
absolutely.
It's brutal. I saw like, and how I got into this was I saw just years ago, like, you know, when they started the DRPs, I was like, this is ridiculous. It's like I watched, you know, the time to put a course report in was almost 11 hours between the body and the mechanical rate. Sometimes it was more depending on the car. 6 hours. Mechanicals included. Like, what? And I've had managers argue with me, like, no, that's the way it is. Like, no, it's not the way it was. It's like,
it's disheartening when your own employer is fighting you on their side, you know. It's like, and I love the line, "Oh, you don't know what these writers deal with." It's like, actually, I do. You know, like I have been doing this a little while, so that's just, you know, I just shake that off. But
that's it's hard, right? It's hard to want to go into work when you know your shop's not going to back you. You know what I mean? And I used to say all the time, I'm like, they're sucking the insurance company's dick with your mouth, right? They're just cutting their labor. They're cutting your labor. They're not cutting their labor, right? And
they're still getting their money.
Hey, fix some more. Or just fix some more. Fix some more. I'm like, all I had to do was fix that. I could have made a paycheck.
It won't take you that long. It won't take you that long.
Right.
You know,
it is a little disheartening.
Yeah.
I got really curmudgeoned towards the end of it, and it was kind of like, I'm not doing that. You know, but like, you got to do. I'm like, no, I don't have to. I don't. I can go somewhere else. You realize there's a body man shortage, and I can go anywhere and work, and they'll give you whatever you want. You know, and if you're good, they see it within the first week and a half. What's up, Ryan? There's my buddy.
What's
there.
Up, Ryan? Yeah.
He was my saving grace. So, and I even talked to him at NTE, and I was like, he's like, so you're finally in? And I was like, yeah. He's like, it's about time. And I said, I was scared. It's like, you know, it's like everybody's scared. He's like,
right. It's a wild feeling because you take whatever time you get to work is, whether it be 6:30 or 6 or 7 or whatever, you start your day probably with coffee and breakfast or whatever, and then you're rolling. You know what you got to do. You know where you're going to. All right, well, you make that jump, and Tuesday on a 10, you're looking around like, what am I doing? You know, you're like, I got to go over here and maybe get some dents going over here, or I got to schedule stuff. I got to look at this. I got to look at that. And then you're wearing all the hats in one, and you're like, this is different. You know, this isn't like, and then
it's a good different.
It is, but nothing. I don't know if you're like I am, but I like my stuff to be in one place so I can have it in order, and I can do, you know, whatever the situation calls, I can go right to this, that, or other. So I need to be well organized, or I will forget anything. But once my organization, when I got out to this, wasn't there yet. So I get over here and I'm like, yeah, I can fix a dent, but I don't know where I'm not used to any of this yet. So there's a whole era of things that you have to do
for tools, like put that, everything's thrown in the back of my truck, and then you know, that's why Chasing Hail was so great, because everything's right there. I need this, I need that, or you just, you know, you just throw it up there and stuff.
I agree with that, Hudson. Hudson says it's definitely not for everyone. Some dent guys are better off working for another tech who is a good boss business.
There's some guys that don't want to deal with all that other stuff, and I'm horrible at it. You know what I mean? Like between me and my wife are trying to figure out, like, you know, like to get her to do the business end of it. And the guys that I'm working with, to teach her how to do hail estimates and then bring her along to, because that was an eye opener going to chase hail and if it wasn't for like Vincent Wilhite, he introduced me to John Triz, and I started fixing some hail jobs with him at his shop, and it was just like when you're in the body shop and there's no other PDR around, or the vendors, they're in and out, and they're usually used car stuff. You don't get to see any of them. There was a guy that used to come into the body shop, and I think he wound up moving to back to Kentucky, and he was just was chasing hail and then doing lots. Just hire someone. She needs to do something, Hudson. She wants to do something, and I'm fine with it. I've had her, trying to teach her how to circle stuff, and I take her to jobs to teach her how to use this stuff. But
there are some women that are fully on board and want to go do that stuff, and then there's some that couldn't care less about it. So
yeah,
I mean, there's somebody for that kind of position too. I mean, if your wife wants to do it, that's great.
It's not a good fit. Then it's not a good
she
fit.
Would be good. She would be good at. She could deal with the insurance company. She does a lot of that with her daughter because her daughter has special needs. So she's always on the phone with insurance companies, and she's relentless. So I know, and we were talking about it this morning about finding a way to get her to learn CCC1, and then teach her how to, because I'm familiar with it because I wrote estimates for a while.
Yeah.
What's up, Chris? And but I know that platform's changed since I was using it. But she could figure it out. She had, some training on it real quick, and I said, "Well, just took a job in a body shop and let them train you, and then say, all right, well, it's not for me, and then it. Whether we buy it, or to use it for, for hail and stuff is regardless, but you'll know it, and then you can deal with the adjusters, and then you just take the Mobile Tech and deal with them. I don't have to deal with it because I'm really back when you factor. yes, we use the fax machine.
Fax when we fax the estimates.
Boy. Yeah. And that's we use fax machines. Yep.
I mean, there wasn't no other way to really go about it at that time unless you wanted to do a crazy old school email that really wasn't good back then at all.
Dial up.
Right.
Dial up. Yeah.
Dial up. Yeah.
That's what I grew up with.
Yeah.
But, yep.
Dial up.
So what made you kind of guide into PDR? Did you do any glue pulling in the body shop?
So I'm going to say it. You guys are going to give me a hard time for it. I drilled holes in panels and pulled out my dent knocker and screw, and that's how we straighten panels, right?
I mean, that's how it was.
That's what we did. We didn't, we didn't have pin welders, but I couldn't when that pin welder came out, and I couldn't use that to save my life, because it was new, right? They're like, oh, you can't drill holes anymore. You gotta use this machine. So you take it, you grind all the paint off all the dent, and you're like, put a pin there. I was horrible. I was like,
that's how I started. I mean,
it's like it would take me all day to straighten a simple little 4-hour dent. You know what I mean? Just because, and I was like, you know what? I can't use this. So when nobody was watching, I kept drilling holes, and they were like, hey, you can't do that. I was like, all right, okay, and then they go away, and but I work with a bunch of old guys. Now I'm not an old guy, but I worked with a bunch of old guys, and they were constantly, they didn't care who was watching them. They did the same thing, drill holes, and then some of them had they had special bits for their air hammers. They just go and just push all these little holes in it, and they just come back with their knocker and pull them all out and then grind everything down and fill it. So then I tried just taking a little bit of the paint off, and then just putting the pins in the low spots, and that's I fought. And then I had one body pick, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to pick everything out. And I would just, I had to take everything apart anyway,
Right.
So, and when I got into it, we weren't R&I and everything. Everything got taped up.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just take it apart, pick it all out, use a natural reflection, airline on the floor or something or whatever I could get to. And it would just chew it all up and then grind it all smooth and then put my body filler on it and smooth it out. And that's how I did it. I mean, and so it just kind of progressed from there. I was like, I was doing that. And then, then there was that wizard guy that would come in. I was like, I gotta watch this guy. What's he doing? Like, I'm over there watching, and I became friends with him. He manages a body shop up in Maryland now. But I became good friends with him, and I'd watch, and I tried to get him to train me, but I could just never make my schedule work, and run around with him, and because he was willing to let me tag along for free, you know what I mean, and but. So I just could never make it work with my schedule with the two kids and everything. So because I spent most of my time in the body shop, and then it was like, oh, I'm going to go run around to a used car lot with this guy for a day, and so it just kind of I could never make it work. And but when you're learning, it's like I got to learn it. So then you start, then it was like, oh, it was just YouTube. What's this? Like, oh, you get on there and like, oh, there's all these videos. Like. So painless stent repair, like Toledo, so then you start,
right?
And I was like, what the hell is this guy doing, and I'd seen, we had one or two hailstorms, and they show up at all the tents, right? But you never got to see what they were doing.
No.
They were all inside, they just wouldn't let you in, to see what they were doing. So it was like, you're like, I wonder what they're doing, and then it's like Google stuff, and it's YouTube, and and then you find Mike Toledo and you watch his videos, like, oh my god, like I need to learn this. Like this is where this is interesting, and it was interesting, and that's what I spent like countless hours watching, plenty of YouTube videos, and it was like I can do that. I'm pretty sure I can do that, because that's what everybody thinks. Like you can do that, you know what I mean? It looks easy,
Yeah, you're right.
Right, it does look easy, but it ain't easy. Right. It's not easy at all. Right. So it's like, I have no formal training. So everything's been videos, online, real world PDR, then trainer. So it was lot of
just the free stuff.
No,
you went and did the online training.
I'm going to, like, as I said, when the DRP started coming around, I saw they were just like sucking times away from you every year. It was worse and worse. You know what I mean? It was like, I got to get out of this. I got to figure out how to get out of this, and this is going to be the way. Because I
motivation, you put the money into those training programs, the online training programs, and trained in your own time. So that's what I did. So that's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah. I mean, that's if you're like you said, if you're a body man and your mindset has to be slow down and be patient, right? Because that's what, because body men are not that, right? Because we're flat rate and everything's got to be done, so everything's got to be done double half the time. So the sacrifice is, okay, I'm going to take 4 hours to fix this 4 hour dent. But when it goes to the paint shop, they can scuff and shoot it or not do anything to it. And that's, so it took years, it's like, and I'd have managers like, what are you doing? Like, I'm going to be a PR guy. No, you ain't. Like, yeah, I am. And I still talk to that guy. He lives in, over in, Newport Richey. And he's like, what are you doing now? And I was like, chasing hail. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, what? And I was like, yep. He's like, you're out of the body shop? Out of the body shop. And he laughs. But, nice. Yeah, I mean, like, hold my beer, dude. I'm gonna make this, I'm gonna make this work. And
that's how you can tell when a body guy is about to leave the shop, is when they no longer care about chasing that hour amount. They're sitting there honing their skills.
You can't care about. You got to take that sacrifice.
Yeah,
right then and there. And and you'll get into the more you do it, the faster you get at it. Just like
But like anything else, I mean, the body shop has I don't want to say free, but it's a free opportunity to go in there and learn all like the struggles, like what tool tips do, how do you push, what happens if you push too much, because it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You're just gonna you can grind it down and go away with it. But your skill metal time is magnified because you can learn all the wrongs in one spot. You don't have to sit here and go out to a wholesale lot on some random parking lot out in the sun. You can sit there in a chair, spend time with it, put your headphones on, leave everybody alone, and just go at it. And I think that's when body guys come out of the shop and they want to they start doing. I think that's why they're so good at PDR so fast, is because they skipped all that learning curve, or the basic learning curve, we'll say, and can just smooth a dent out really nice, to where that they have to learn all the other hats to wear, like selling the dent, talking to people, because body guys aren't good at talking to people. They're terrible at talking.
You have to. You have to. So I felt I had to. I had to learn how to talk. Hey, Steve, I had to learn how to talk to adjusters. Because I was quick to fly off the handle. If you had anything to do with stealing my time, or telling me I didn't need all that time, we were going at it. We were going. I fought with every adjuster and every painter, and that's the way it was. Like and
that's the way the industry's set up. I mean, that's what it makes us into these complainers. I mean, a bunch of whiners. That's what they call us. But that's you created us. If we don't whine, we don't get the time.
30 years of body work. 30 years of body work. I have what? 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 friends from the body shop industry. One's a painter.
I'm not really. Most of them
are from down here. Most of them are from here, like up in Maryland. And there's one. Two guys that I'm friends with still, but and I've worked in probably every shop in that area where I lived, because it was like, you go in there and there's always the golden child, and then when they hire you, right, you're the golden child, right? There's the gravy period. You're going to get
for a minute,
for the first 2 weeks, you're going to get all the gravy straightening stuff and easy stuff, and then after that, then the other guy gets his stuff back, and then you go to be sitting on your bench waiting for work, and you get the smash hits, and they see what you can do, and then once they find out that, like, oh, he can do smash work, and he does frames and he does all his mechanical, then that's what you get stuck with. You know what I mean? And so I learned. It took me a long time to learn it, but then it was like, I don't do any mechanical. I don't. You know what I mean? I don't do this anymore. Like what? And I'm like, I'm I do this. This is what I'm good at. And a lot of that came from being in a shop that a lot of the mechanical stuff went to the service department. And I was like, well, I don't need to do all that mechanical. I can make the same kind of money just doing all body work. I don't need that mechanical labor. Right. You know what I mean? Unless it was something, unless you're doing a core support and you grab the, whatever radiation stuff they give you, condenser stuff, which isn't much now. You know what I mean? It used to get, used to be 5-6 hours mechanical, radiator, condenser, the vac and recharge and all that.
You done?
Yeah, now it's all included. So
it's all included, and it never was.
Right.
It wasn't.
Right.
So
I tell them I don't even know how to spell mechanical in the last few shops I went in. I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, it's horrible, and that and like when they
says honeymoon period.
If you get that honeymoon period, and it's about 2 weeks, and especially if it's a busy shop, and
I always said about 3 months, 2 weeks. Damn,
2 weeks. 2 weeks is 2 weeks. So that's about all I got out of it.
So did you ever work hourly or salary, or was you always flat rate?
No, so I've only worked at one shop that was you worked on a draw. So kind of like what the estimators got, they would take like $500 a week, and at the end of the month, if you hit over a certain amount, it was a bonus. So there was like all that stuff got added up, and then and then there was a big check at the end of the month. But you had to do a certain amount, but you couldn't do that if
she doesn't have balls, but she would. She wouldn't even if she had them eventually. She's doing whatever she wants. She's living her best life.
Yeah, right.
But I had to take. I don't know if you guys could hear her chewing on the thing right behind my chair. The whole thing. She's chewing on this antler.
Antler. Yeah, that's my dog's.
Oh my goodness! Probably the first half of the show.
It's a good knockdown. We use that for knockdown.
Right. Yeah, good knockdown.
You're gonna laugh, but I fixed a lot of aluminum with the deer antler knockdown out in
I can see it. I can see it.
They were making fun of me. Because I had a little tiny piece. Because the dog was the dog had chewed the whole antler down, and my wife she was like, "Gotta take that away so he doesn't swallow that." So I put it in my toolbox, and we were out in Texas, and I think I had an aluminum Ford door. It was up on my Carbon Tech stand, and they were like, "What are you hitting that with?" And I was like, "Deer antler." They were like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "It's not messing the paint up, and it's knocking the aluminum down." So I don't know if it's because it worked great as long as you don't hit it with a double metal. You know what I mean? When you got to the edge, it would start to break apart. You have to sand it down and re-smooth it. But out in the open, it worked great. I still use it. I bought a whole bunch of them.
That's hilarious.
And I was making fun of the guys. I'm going to get a whole bunch of them and market them like bona fide finish knockdown. You know what I mean? And they were like, I'll take one. I'll take one. I got like 35 of them sitting out in the garage.
You should, honestly. I mean,
it was crazy.
Somebody to turn them for you or something.
Like, just as a joke, And I was like, and I use it. And customers are like, "What do you got there?" I'm like, "It's a piece of deer antler." They're like, "What?" And I'm like, knocking on a guy's Ferrari door with it. He was like, "What do you?" I was like, because I was so paranoid I was going to mess his paint up. I was like, it doesn't mess the paint up. It's softer than the rest of it, and so that's what I use. It's weird,
That's
So I got a bunch of them. I'm gonna take them on the road with me. I'll have them. My buddies will.
That's amazing. I can think of a tool company that if they're listening, it'll be out this week. Bone knockdowns.
You can get them from Etsy, right? I got to our guy. We got a puppy. And I was like, I'm gonna get some more antlers.
There you go.
And I was all out. Yeah, and you get there, and they came from somewhere like where we were out fixing hail. There was a company that sold them in bulk, so I got like 5 pounds of deer antler and then a bag of tines, and they were I forget what the weight of it was, but they're like 5 to 6 inches long. And I just picked through all the good ones, because there's some that are curved that you can't use. So I picked out the straightest one.
That's what I was about to say. I could just imagine just getting out a big curved antler just like this.
Yeah, I went through them all. Yeah, so I got a bunch of straight ones, and then I take for mine. I was like, yeah, buy one.
Kay said she's buying one.
I take hot glue and I just put it on the back, just because I cleaned up the back end of it, and I just put hot glue on it just so it makes it a little bit softer. But yeah, I was surprised it worked great, just as a joke. But yeah, it works.
I do like seeing. I think it's Tony Shirley was in David White's shop, and he had a whole bunch of like knockdowns and stuff that he just made himself, like a hanger for his AR-9. He's like, I saved myself $30 because he made his own, things like that. And I love seeing that kind of stuff because I'm so quick to seeing somebody do a video like, look, they just came out with this new tool and it serves this function. And I'm like, I need that, And then in my mind, I have to buy it. When in reality, I've got 8 things in there that'll do the same freaking thing, but I was just not thinking that way.
I made the mistake of buying everything for Black Friday, right? And then, of course, for MTE, then everything like, oh, there's all this new stuff. And I'm like, having a little heads up, you know what I mean? Like I got the Pro PDR, the little mini light, for close up, and then of course the Eliminate comes out with a nicer one. I'm like,
I bought the Pro PDR light last year. I used it quite a bit, but I do like the limited functions as far as the 2-tone lights, the warm and cool, and just the just seems like a little bit better of a light, but it still works good. I mean, I don't have nothing against Pro PDR.
Yeah, no, I like it
for sure. Yeah. But it's one of those things you can.
It makes it easier than pulling the 14-inch Eliminate up, and mine's I've had that for a long time, so it's kind of not as bright. It's a little bit more dim than it used to be. So but
interesting.
So it works great.
What do you think that is? Do you think that's like the LED?
It could be the lens.
Or...
I don't know. I don't know if it's the LED strips or not. It could just be the lens.
Yeah.
I try to keep it. I try to keep it clean. But I use 2 Stucky hail lights too, and they're different. So they're kind of more crisp and.
Yeah, I think everybody likes the Stucky light, the big Stucky lights for hail. I think, or just any work in general as far as finishing. I don't have one, so I can't really speak on it. But
I bought one before, like when I knew I was going to chase hail. I bought a second one and a second stand, and it was and I had been using John's. He has 2. I think it's a Chubby, light, and the fog on that looks good too. It's easy on my eyes. I like the Stucky light. So
I have a Stucky mobile light that I really like, but I prefer my Luminant mobile or my X Factor light, my hail light, over those anyway. And I feel like honestly, the X Factor light, he did a good job at making those strips and the fade really sharp. Because it's definitely sharper than my mobile version 2 Luminant light. So I'm an Luminant guy. I mean, that's what I use pretty much exclusively. But my first light was a Stucky. It's a nice light. So I mean, I can't. And I've heard PDR techs tell me that no matter what light they use, they have to finish it with a Stucky. They just can't finish it with anything else. They can't get the details right otherwise. And I think it's what you're used to. Right. But I mean, it does say something about Stucky lights,
Yeah.
So
I mean, it was a big jump. That I think it's the version 3 Luminant light that I bought. Yeah, the version 3, and
I think mine's a version 2. I have to check.
Mine's a version 2. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So I mean, and it worked. I mean, it was like I went from using natural reflection. And my buddy was like, "Nope, you got to get a light, man. You got to if you're gonna learn this, you got to get a light." And then so I bought a couple tools and then bought a light. And man, it was like I seen him the next time he comes. I was like, "Man, dude, what a difference? Like why did I wait so long? Screw that airline on the floor. You know what I mean? Like now it's put that up on the panel and I started with lines. Like I had a line board and I was like,
lines are difficult for you.
It's just this is
it's different.
So and somebody give me that board, and some old guy gave it to me that was doing PDR for one of the body shops I worked at in PA, and he's like, "Here, this is my spare. You can have it." And and I tried. It wasn't happening, and then I bought that Luminant, and it was like it was an eye opener. Like then you were then it's like, oh, there's the tip. You know what I mean?
You can find it. Yeah.
You can find it quick. You know what I mean? It wasn't an issue.
Easier.
Dragging the tool around trying to find out where it's at. But,
right. We're at the 53-minute mark. So what was one of the hardest things for you to learn PDR wise? Like, was it lights or was it tools or what was it, do you think?
Patience.
You kind of started out
Patience.
just the same way I did, like
good,
using reflection and all that, and trying to do it without lights. So you'd say patience.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, you're flat rate. You're quick. Right. You know what I mean? You got to be quick. Yeah. So you can't. Slow, smooth is fast, right? So it's you have to have patience, and that's what. And that's when I finally decided that, like I'm going to make this work. Like I said, you got to make the dedication to say, okay, it's going to take me 4 or 5 hours to fix that 4-hour dent, but it's going to be good to go. So there's a lot of patience involved in trying to do that because you're not just fixing little tiny dents, right? You're fixing softball sized dents and then you're learning how to put that light way back there. Because if you don't, it's still there. You know what I mean? I fought with that for a while, and never, and you get on all the Facebook pages like, dude, put your light way back. Care, just keep putting it back. So that's still a hard thing for me to learn. So I put it back, and my glasses, right? So I had so I wear contacts when I'm fixing dents, and I have a special pair of glasses that let me look at the top of my glasses. All the specs are up top, so I can look down on it instead of having to lean back and look at the bottom close up.
Yeah.
But and it's just finding that right. Like, oh, that the light's not in the right spot. Run back there, turn it a little bit, come back up. Like, oh, okay, there's all the low spots, and then work all that stuff.
So battling the light pretty much what was like the most challenging thing to overcome, I guess you would say. It was for me, and I mean, you kind of had a similar kind of transition.
Yeah, once you get on a dent trainer page, or Real World PDR, and you're on there and you're going through those beginning steps. I kind of skipped all those steps, like finding your tip and all the circles and not making highs and knocking them all down. I used the pick for so long, I could always tell where the tooltip was at. You know what I mean?
Right.
Even with the natural reflection, but the light, that just brings out everything. Right in for you. I mean, there's no real guesswork at that point, but positioning that light, right? Then you get on, you get on those websites. And you're like, all right, hold the light the light's got to be this way or this way to the dent. You know what I mean? And turn it in a little bit, move it back, bring it close. And I would take stuff and take it way back. And since I had a hard time trying to find the tooltip with that really, really far, I would mark all the spots with like an auto writer and then bring it back up and like that's where I'm supposed to be. And I saw I was watching something maybe Shane Jacks put out, and he had all these things marked. And I kind of made a comment. He was like, "Oh, so I know where I'm back. Which spots when I bring my light back up. That's what I can see. That's what I know where I'm supposed to be at." And so I started doing that. In video, video it and then look at it in 4K. And
That's
be
good.
Oh,
That's a good tip.
Yeah.
I mean, anything
that. I just learned something.
It works because it sees it a lot better than my eyes see it, and I fixed the tailgate today on an F350, and it was the bottom part of the body line where it rolls down from the Super Duty. It rolls down and comes this way. So the tailgate laying up on inside the bed, and so it's trying to push that this way against the dent. Oh, it looks great. Move the light way back inside the truck and look at it's all nice and dark, and you can see how it's clean as can be. Set it back up on the thing, big low spot. But it couldn't see it in that direction of the light. But I'm not disconnecting the guy's tailgate. You know what I mean? I'm like, so it's got to sit in that one spot. Bring it back, mark it all in the natural reflection, put it back up on there, and then do it again. I think I had that tailgate on and off probably 6 times.
Yeah,
but that's what it took. That's what it took to get that low spot. That's what it took to get the low spot out. It was like
there's that patience you're talking about.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yep, that's good too.
I do like hearing that you mentioned patience though, because by saying that, you're saying that it's something you learned and something that can be learned, and that's the number one reason people tell me they won't get into bodywork or PDR is because they say I don't have the patience. It's bullshit.
Well,
you can learn the patience.
Do you want to live? You want to support yourself? Right.
Well, so, right.
What do you want to do? In my situation, I had no other choice. Sink or swim. I had to raise a family. Right. So I had to learn it. Right. And I missed a lot of family stuff because I wasn't the guy. Somebody's asked for work. You hired me. I'm sitting there. I'm here to work. Right. I'm showing up at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm staying till 7 o'clock at night. I'm coming in on Saturdays, I'm working Sundays, only so I can get all the smash work done because I'm not fast, but I'm also not getting gravy straightening work. So, and then you do what everybody else does. You complain a little bit. They go like, oh, here, take this, and they give you a couple straightening jobs, and then you fill in some stuff. But I missed out on tons of family stuff, with my kids growing up because I spent it all in the body shop because if you left early because he didn't have no work, we don't have no work. I'm like, okay. And then you watch him take something over to that guy.
Yeah.
But you didn't have anything. Oh, well, no, they, it was probably like, oh, okay. And you sit there and it happens again. But those guys would pack up and leave like early on a Friday and they would give them 2 or 3 jobs and they'd be gone. You know what I mean? So I didn't have that option.
Yeah. That's body shop life for you. As soon as you leave, they start handing out stuff, or they'll leave it on the desk all day and
pick it up underneath the computer thing and then hand it out to somebody else.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
When you start going through that, and if you're, you PDR is what you want. That's what knuckle down, learn the patience, and get yourself online and do whatever it takes. I mean,
if you have the determination to get through learning an entirely another skill set after we just learned the 18 that we did for bodywork, I mean,
right.
Yeah, that's something that could empower you for sure. But it's a step, when you think you're done learning. Well,
And in normal body shop, in a dealership body shop, there's not all that training like in a corporate shop. Like when I went to Gerber, it's like everything's like, oh, this is a procedure. This is this. I'm like, what? I'm like, this is the way I've been doing it for 30 years. This is, I've never had an issue. No, it's got to be this.
Overnight.
Yeah. Right. Here, you do this. Here, you got to measure down from here, and you got to mark this line. You got to do it. We never had to do any of that. It was common sense. You kind of like if you're doing a belt cut across the sail panel, you did it. There's only two, maybe three different ways you can do it. Toyota, they just wanted you to cut straight through it and just butt weld it with no backing. I hated. I never did that. I would never do that, even though they wanted it. But
that's how I did it every time. So I mean, I was groomed in that period of procedures and replacement. So everything was to the T. Everything was to the procedure. I can butt weld thin ass metal with a giant gap now.
Yeah.
Because that's what they forced me to do.
Well, I can too, but
I don't doubt it.
There's a lot of guys that I worked with that couldn't weld, and they were doing it, and I'm like,
right.
That car's not safe. That's car. So we did like a 1 inch overlap or 3/4 inch overlap to maybe a backing where we just make a 1 inch backer and then cut it and then put it in there and then put the backing on. But
that's how I was taught.
For the most part, we overlapped it. We would take and flange it a little bit if we had to, so it sat in it, and just overlap the top part of the sail panel, weld it up, and finish it. And there was never an issue. I've seen guys put panel bond on it. Like, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you can't do that. Yeah, no, it's panel bond. I'm like, wait till you get it back from the paint shop, and it's got this big seam that because the oil's come out of the panel. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, and they get it to fly. These are big number guys.
That's the worst part. Is that you watch that happen and they get away with it.
You watch that and they get away with it. Yeah. I've seen shops buy cars back, from other guys.
I've seen
you let him do it. You hire him. You hire him because he's a numbers guy, right? You don't want to know what he's doing, but there's your end result. You know what I mean? Comebacks, buying cars back. Because you're going to get that customer. You're going to get that customer that's not going to say, "No, that's bullshit." You know what I mean? We're not. This doesn't fly. And I don't care how many times you bring it back in to try to make it right. It ain't happening.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It ain't happening. So
I would be that customer.
Yeah.
I think all three of us would. I did try and hack our cars up like that. Right. So
I look at it like this: I'm putting my family in this car. Right. If I'm gonna put my family in the car, it's gonna be safe. And I looked at I would get into fights with managers. Like, I need the car done. The car be done when I'm done with it. Right. And you're not gonna have anybody. And that's how you get. So after you've been doing it 17 years, that's how you get. You know what I mean? Like, you realize that you're good at what you do.
Right.
You're not going to let them compromise your work. Doesn't matter if you're slow. You can be slow as long as you're comfortable with what you make. You know what I mean? That's the way it goes. Did it hurt me in the long run? Absolutely. I lost a house over it. You know what I mean? And that was my fault. You know what I mean? Because it was like I was comfortable, but I was doing what I knew was right to fix these cars. But they weren't giving me enough work. And instead of just saying, I'm out of here, I took it and I lost a house over it, because I couldn't pay my bills. But after that, I learned my lesson. I was like, we're not doing that. We're not going through this again. And and I became a different person when I was going to the job. And I think right around then is when that was probably 2012, 2013. So even before that, and probably 2010 is when I started getting serious about PDR. So when I lost the house, it was like, I'm not letting this happen again. Yeah. Something's got to change. It's got to be me. I'm the one that's got to change to make everything work. So, because I wasn't going through it again, and that's the kind of attitude. Like, it's when you go into a manager's office and they're going to blow smoke up your ass. You got to blow smoke back up their ass. But you got to say, no, I'm not. This is what I do, and this is what I don't do. That's the way it's going to be. And if you want to hire me, that's fine. If not, then I can go find a job somewhere else.
Right. Good
That's
stuff.
the power we have as technicians now. Yeah. I mean, there's not many of us. Right. There's almost none of us, especially skilled, good employees.
And seeing you guys do like all the glue stuff, like I try to talk to these people, like, hey, you need to call Kiko, you need to call Kim Auto, you need to find it, incorporate this stuff because it works on aluminum, it works on stuff.
Not only that, but
it's the way
it really allows us to repair these giant pieces of damage that before were just write-offs. Write that off. Get me a new panel.
Right.
It's a no-brainer now to I'm gonna glue pull that out, and I'm gonna maybe the whole panel will be mudded, but it's gonna be a skim coat. Yeah. So I'm okay with that. Like that's fine.
Yeah. And look, you sacrifice your time to get it to that point to where it's just a skim coat, right?
Yeah.
So now I can make giant repair hours,
right?
So that's I mean that's what we're trying to do here is make more money.
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to do.
Anybody tell you anything different? Everybody's trying to make money. Everybody wants to make money. That's how you live, right? So I mean, that's how you get by.
For sure.
Well,
Adam, I really appreciate you coming on. This is
this. Glad you guys had me on.
Flew by. I mean, it's partially because it only feels like 8 o'clock right now for me.
I know, right?
It's 9, but I love these days. I got home, the sun was still up in the sky.
I don't know how you guys get involved in all these. Like, I can't keep up with all these podcasts. And it's like I try to, and like half the time, like I'm falling asleep. I'm like, God, these guys are all over the place.
Yeah,
we try, man. We try.
It's tough, man. It's like it's a grind. It's just like PDR work.
Man, he is in like every. Like I come in for a couple minutes when I remember that they're on, and Josh is always there. Like so it's.
Don't get me wrong. Sometimes I pop in just for a quick comment, and then I'm not really watching.
Well, depending on what I have to do or what we have going on, I still try to make a time to go in and make an appearance. But with that being said, Gene Fetty's live right now doing a live glue pulling session.
Oh, nice.
So
that's why he's not in the comment section.
That's why he's not in the comment section. So
we're gonna have to go over and watch Gene's glue pulling.
All right. Yeah. Well, let's sign off here and everybody go over to AAI.
Everybody go check him out.
Yeah.
Right on.
Adam, thanks for coming on.
All right. Thanks for having me, fellas. Yeah. Good
Bye, everybody.